Hello there, everyone, and welcome. Happy Winter Spectacular. I am Jeff, your tabletop technician here on the Dice Tower, and I know I have been MIA for a little bit. Listen, it's been a weird fourth quarter of 2024, but I'm really happy to be here, happy to be sharing with you my 10 best games of 2024. And I'll tell you, this was a bit of a difficult list to put together. Just going through the list of games that came out this year on Board Game Geek, I was actually a bit overwhelmed to just realize how many games have come out this year that I am excited to play, that not only have I not gotten to play, I haven't even seen them in the wild. I haven't seen them at stores, I haven't seen them on anyone's table, and I haven't had a chance to check them out. In fact, I'm filming this the weekend after Thanksgiving. I'll be heading to PAX Unplugged in Philadelphia next week, and I have a list of games that have come out even just recently that I'm really hoping to get and have a chance to play. So understand that this list is a bit fluid. It's, as it stands now, and I'm sure it's going to change a little bit. And with that all being said, let's get to it. Kicking off the list with my number 10, and listen, I know I have a little bit of a reputation of liking games that are a bit off the beaten path, and this one is certainly no exception. This is Lands of the Mesozoic by Pungo Games. Now, for folks who might be looking at this going, what the heck game is this? I'll certainly tell you. This is sort of a card-playing game with each player has their own board, and you'll be placing out various biomes and various dinosaur cards of the Mesozoic era, which covers the Triassic, Jurassic, and Cretaceous periods. We'll start off by placing cards representing various biomes like swampland or grassland, and then you'll start placing out herbivore cards and eventually carnivore cards. Now, each card requires previous cards to be in play, so various dinosaurs may need to have certain biomes, or of course the carnivores may need herbivores to be able to feed off of. And all that is done by meeting these criteria with certain icons that are on all of the cards, and also discarding cards to cover the cost of getting cards played. And that's where this game starts to get a bit tricky, because cards are not very easy to come by in this game. Some of your cards you can sort of tap or exhaust in order to collect more cards, but you'll also have to exhaust those cards to get the next tier of cards in play. The boards that each player has kind of looks a little bit like a Wingspan board, although there really aren't any comparisons with Wingspan here. Just this very difficult sort of a ladder climbing game trying to get these higher evolutionary cards out in play. There are also extinction events that will force players to get rid of a couple cards, and again, all that keeps this very tight, very challenging. You can get this off the Pungo Games website. They're located actually not too far from me in the Norfolk or Virginia Beach area, and I might recommend checking out Lands of the Mesozoic, my number 10. Number 9 is a much more recent release. In fact, I think this came out at Gen Con this year, and you can now get it just about anywhere. This is Hi-Fi from Smirk and Dagger Games. Now, this looks pretty nice, but I actually like the main box itself, and even better is how this thing looks out on the table. Now, we don't usually get to say sentences like this about board games, but in Hi-Fi, you are competing sound engineers. You and your fellow opponents are trying to make a record for the band called The Meeples, and you're maybe sort of slightly disagreeing on which instruments should be prevalent in these various tracks. You got these different cards that you're playing representing the lead singer, the guitarist, the bassist, and the drummer of this band, and you're trying to get these cards out in certain orders to allow you to score these criteria cards that you get at the beginning of the game, and you can get more of them throughout the game. Now, I will say that this game is a little better at maybe 3 or 4. It can become a little bit more cutthroat at 2, but still a pretty fun challenge. And one of my favorite comments about this game was from Mr. Z Garcia himself, who said, hey, if you've ever seen a mixing board and thought, hey, I like to play with this, sure, this is your kind of game. I am absolutely that kind of person. Listen, I've been working in the audio editing sort of field for a long time, but I've never really done a lot of live recording. I've never gotten to really play with a mixing board. And so just having a chance to sort of play in that theme is something that is very appealing to me. I love the way this game looks on the table. It certainly catches people's attention, and it is just a decent little puzzle game to play. Certainly on the lighter side, but just something that, listen, there's not a lot of games in this theme out there, and that's why it's number 9 on my list. Hi-Fi. All right, number 8 is another somewhat fairly obscure title. This is Kyperium from Matt Cousineau and Steve Castle. This is a 2-player only game where players are trying to race to reach the Kuiper Belt, building sort of a space station as you go. And there's a lot of sort of take that and interaction with the other player as you're trying to get workers out onto their cards. You're trying to get your own cards played. And of course, you're trying to sort of slow them down so you can beat them in this race. Now, this game is certainly a bit more on the aggressive side, which isn't usually the kind of thing that I go for, but there is a lot of strategy in this, and you can often find yourself rapidly switching from being on the offensive to being on the defensive. I also like the presentation of this. It's a very colorful game, and I do have a full review of this out here on the channel, so you can certainly go and check that out. A fun 2-player experience, if not maybe a little on the mean side. Number 8, Kyperium. My number 7 is the only game on this list that I don't have. This is Windmill Valley by Board and Dice. Now, I'm not a huge Board and Dice fan. I find a lot of the games to be a bit abstract or just dry for me in general. I'm also not just a huge fan of dice in games personally, and there are no dice in this game. Maybe that's why I liked it. It's also just a gorgeous presentation. Now, there is a little bit of a gimmick in that it's an action selection game where you're turning these gears to trigger 1 or 2 of the actions on these gears, and through those actions you're trying to get various windmills placed out for scoring. You're trying to get tulips planted on a field on your own player board, and a bunch of other things that you're trying to do along the way. Now, I've heard some folks say that if a player is kind of pushing the end game, trying to rush to the end of the game, they can tend to run away from other players and maybe make it a bit of an unpleasant experience. I didn't have that problem with this game. I've also heard that the solo experience is pretty interesting in that you can play against aggressive or slower building AI bots. And for all of those reasons, and again, just its gorgeous presentation, is why it just made it onto my list at number 7, Windmill Valley. My number 6 is a bit more common. You've probably heard of this game, and it's probably on a couple of lists that you've seen already. This is Harmonies by Johan Benvenuto. This is one of those sort of abstract tile placement games along the lines of Azul or Cascadia. And in this, you're trying to create patterns of these various environments to let you put animals then out onto your player board. What I like about this one is that you're working on your own environment. You don't have other players blocking you. They might be drafting the tiles that you want, but other than that, you can generally get done the things that you want to get done. The only thing I'll say about this is that it's maybe not best at 2 because the market of cards that you're drafting to then let you score can become a little bit stagnant if neither player is working towards any of those biomes or those various animals. We did kind of add a little house rule that if you don't take a card on your turn, you can bump a card from the market. And we even play kind of a Care Bear version. My wife and I will say, hey, do you want that card? Nope. Okay, then we can get rid of it. Other than that, a very, very nice, casual, comfortable, pretty game, Harmonies, my number 6. Number 5 is a game that I backed on Kickstarter because I knew that my daughter would absolutely love it, and I was right. This is Let's Go to Japan by Josh Wood and AEG. This is a sort of a tableau building game about trying to go on a trip to Japan, and it was inspired by Josh, who was trying to take a trip to Japan, and they got canceled because of a little event called COVID-19. My daughter absolutely loves this game. She loves reading the cards. She loves the art. She loves this sort of idea. In fact, the way that we play this game is that not only do we lay out our tableau and plan our trip to Japan, but instead of scoring all of our days simultaneously at the end of the game, we take turns around the table sort of telling a story of the trip that we will take to Japan. And my daughter absolutely loves that part. Yes, it drags out the game a little bit, but we play it with a family, so who cares? The only thing I'll say about this is I've played it a number of times because my daughter really enjoys it, and by now I'm seeing a lot of the same cards. It's kind of become a little repetitive. I do hope that there's going to be some more expansion content coming out for this, and of course I would love to see versions of this with other countries, maybe going to Paris or Spain, but we still really love this. A very, very fun family experience. Let's Go to Japan. Before I get into my number 4, I'm going to give a quick honorable mention to the one expansion I'd like to chat about. This is Honey Buzz Fall Flavors. This is sort of a modular expansion to the game of Honey Buzz, which adds new modules and new components to kind of move everything into a fall theme. And I really enjoy the color palette of this new version of the game. And it adds just enough to the game that it makes what was already a decent puzzle of a game even that much more challenging. I've had a lot of fun playing this, and I wanted to make sure I gave it a quick nod. Honey Buzz Fall Flavors. However, my actual number 4 is a bit more silly, a bit more chaotic, and definitely a bit more mean. This is Joyride Survival of the Fastest. I have here the Joyride Turbo All-In Kickstarter Pledge. I have quite enjoyed this game. I feel like it is a bit more of a grown-up Mario Kart. You're moving these cars around these very colorful tracks, trying to move through the various checkpoints while collecting weapons and upgrade and gear and such to be able to thwart your opponents. You also have unique powers in this game that let you maybe drift, cut corners a little tighter, steer more often, have extra dice or extra movement. And though there are dice in this game, I feel like you have so much more decision space than with most racing games. You can really be cunning as you're playing out each one of your turns. I've had a lot of fun with Joyride, fairly easy to teach, and just a good silly experience. My number 4, Joyride Survival of the Fastest. I actually had to double check to make sure that my number 3 did in fact come out this year, because I feel like I heard about it forever ago. This is Wormspan by Stonemaier Games. And I'm in that camp of players who just kind of thought Wingspan was okay. I'm not really sure what all the buzz was about. But because of that, I was a little hesitant to even try this game. I did finally sit down with it at Dice Tower East, ended up having a great game with some really great people, and I really enjoyed the puzzle of this game. I do like the fact that the food that you're trying to collect is no longer randomized by dice. You can just get whatever you want when you need it. I also like the fact that this game doesn't really slow down towards the end. With Wingspan, you get fewer and fewer actions each round. Not so in this game. In fact, you can even get additional actions as you play, and it feels very rewarding to me to try and be that player who's the last to run out of things to do at the end of the game. Getting extra actions to try and rack up a lot of extra points. And I think that, as well as some other new components, new ideas in this game, is what's really made it hit the mark for me. My number 3, Wormspan. This game almost didn't make this list because I wasn't sure what year it came out in. It's listed on BGG as a 2023 title. I ordered it in November of 23, but it did not ship until January 8th of this year. This is Evacuation by Vladimir Suchy. This is a very, very unique puzzle of a game. And in this game, you start off with a engine running just fine on a planet that mankind has destroyed. I wonder where they got that idea from. And so you have to relocate your engine to a new planet and sort of start all over again. And obviously the player who is the most successful at doing so while keeping their population happy will be the winner of this game. I played this quite a number of times in the beginning of this year, and I still feel like I have so much more to learn of it. I still never got very good at it, but I really enjoy the challenge of this game. And I promise it wasn't on purpose that I made Evacuation my number 2. And here we are with my number 1. As always, a huge thanks to the Dice Tower crew for letting me be a part of the Winter Spectacular. This game absolutely blew me out of the park this year. I played it at the Dice Tower Retreat, and somewhere around turn 3, turn 4, I went and ordered my own copy. This is Rock Hard 1977 by Jackie Fox and DeVere. I love a game with good theme, and this game is dripping with theme from every action, every rule, every component, every card. You are just absolutely immersed in this idea of trying to become a successful rock star. Some folks complain about the randomness in this game, but it affects everyone equally, and it is often a very funny experience. Everything that kind of happens in this game is very tongue-in-cheek, and I just I just love how immersive this is. I love teaching this game because you can just have so much fun sort of putting yourself into character and introducing people into this fantastic game. My number one by a landslide, Rock Hard 1977. Folks, enjoy the rest of your Winter Spectacular. Happy holidays from everyone here in Ashland, Virginia, and we'll see you next year. Cheers.
Hey everybody, thanks for watching another video on the Dice Tower. Hey, do you want to know what's going on with Dice Tower? Do you want to know about our events, our cruises, special things that we're going to do live here in the Dice Tower? Subscribe to Dice Tower Digest. Go to dicetowerdigest.com. It's a newsletter that we send out bi-weekly. We won't use your email for anything else. This is just to get you some information about the Dice Tower so you'll be up to date. Thanks for watching.